So, you guys, if you could see this room, you would swoon.
Hi, it's two Hags Chinwag, Suzanne.
Trish.
Welcome to my home. So last time we did it in Trish's beautiful home down in the valley, and I'm in Dartmouth, city of lakes. I love it. I go swimming outside in all the beautiful lakes we have. And this is my little witchy room that I come to just when I need to just do some breath work and just step out of the mundane world into something a little more connected. And my backyard is right there, so I go outside with my kitty cats, and I just love my space. So today we're going to do our usual what makes our cauldron bubble and what makes our cauldron boil over.
Mm-hmm.
And Trisha's going to do the boil over, and I'm going to do the bubble. And she's got a topic that she wants to talk about, and then I'll do a little chat about what witchcraft means to me. And
Yeah. So, you guys, if you could see this room, you would swoon. I can't turn the camera, but there is so much to look at. It's amazing. I love it in here. It's got such a good vibe, and it's inspiring me for when I have my own space. My partner and I are working on something that I could have my own space, because I don't have that right now. But when I do, I want it to be like this, because this is just so cool. It's awesome. So maybe one day Susie would be open to doing a little tour. It's a small room, but it's packed with energy.
oh, thanks, Trish.
Yeah. Oh, and then I just wanted to do a little technical housekeeping stuff, because I tend to be the one that does the uploading and stuff like that. So we're doing our podcast once a month, but I just wanted to remind you that sometimes in between that, there will be some written posts, and we had put up, I had put up a short video just showing what I did with the hawthorn that we talked about in the first episode. And then Susie and I both just got inspired to do short video that sort of expounded on the podcast episode. And then we decided,
show and tell.
Yeah, then we decided it was like, oh, the show and tell is like perfect for that, because it just will show more of what we talked about in the podcast. So you can expect those probably almost every episode, I'm assuming, because I already have an idea as to what I want to show after this podcast. Yeah, so I think that was it. Oh, the other thing I wanted to mention is we have 13 subscribers, and 13 is such a magical number. Mm-hmm. And it's like the perfect, it's like the goal that most covens try to have as far as member number, because it's a magical number, it's a feminine number, it's a female power number. So for our first podcast to land on 13 subscribers, I think is really cool. It's really magical, and I really hope to build on that. Right, so I'm kind of doing things a little backwards today. I want to talk about something that makes my cauldron boil and bubble over, and it stems from a comment that was left on my short video, and it wasn't a bad comment. It was a great comment. I loved the comment, and she had a question, so it made me excited about answering the question. And then I just kind of, when I started thinking about answering this question, I just went down this mental rabbit hole. And then I started realizing, it's like, oh, I'm getting a little worked up about this. So this will be a good subject for the boil and bubble. But I'm going to read you the comment. It was from Brenda. So Brenda, if you're watching, hi. So it was in response to creating sacred space in my fairywood on their property. And she writes, I appreciate this as I struggle to feel I can make changes to the land. I'm filling some words in here. Pulling saplings feels like I'm disturbing the natural flow. Yet I can see they will likely struggle to grow being too close together. Any suggestions for working with the land? I also have a sacred space calling to me. And that's awesome. I'm so glad that you do. I think that's really, well, it's exciting. When you feel that, it's so exciting and it's motivating. It's inspiring. So I guess the rabbit hole that I went down when I was thinking about answering her question about suggestions on working the land and creating a sacred space was the part where she said that she's worried about disturbing the natural flow. And the one thing that I'm noticing now in our society is we've taken on a bit of an anti-humanistic view of ourselves. I don't mean like the scholarly definition of anti-humanism. I just mean in the broad sense of we've come to almost hate ourselves, that we view ourselves as viruses on the planet, that we are destructive viruses on the planet. I see these comments all the time where it's like, oh, we're just, cancers on the planet Earth, and we're just bad for the earth. And I get that. There's lots of evidence for that, right? Lots of evidence. We're destructive. We have wars. We're violent. We have all kinds of very negative aspects to us. And I can totally see why people say that. I actually used to think that way too. I used to think that, God, what are we doing? We're terrible. We shouldn't even be on this planet. We don't deserve this planet. And I started to almost hate myself. And that's like really bad for your mental health. But then I realized that that's all wrong. The majority of us are not viruses. Like when we're part of nature, we are nature ourselves too, right? Mm-hmm. Like when we walk on Mother Earth, she feels us. She feels our presence. We are part of her living body. And when we drink water, she becomes part of us, inside of us, when we breathe her air. Like, we are nature, and we are a vital part of nature. And sure, we really fuck things up. You know what I mean? Like, we do. But we have to remember that we are valuable to Mother Earth, and we are co-creators. And I believe that beyond Mother Earth, I believe that God created Mother Earth, that God created the universe, and that God created us in His image. And I'll say His because that's just my cultural background. That's what I grew up with in the Catholic Church. So I believe that when God created us, He gave us talents, He gave us intelligence, He gave us beauty to see, to receive, but also He gave us the ability to create beauty. And we can create beauty just for the sake of beauty. Sorry, I'm ranting here.
Interesting.
Yeah, so we can create beauty for the sake of beauty. Some animals will create little beautiful things to attract a mate, to catch food. But we were given this special gift of creating beauty, creating art. We were given the task to co-create with God, to co-create with Mother Earth. And I feel that that's a responsibility. It's a gift, but it's a responsibility that we have to see our value so that we can co-create. And if we're going to tell ourselves that we are viruses, that we don't deserve this planet, then we're just going to enter into this destructive darkness, especially to our own mental health, our own selves. And then that'll just spread. That just spreads, right? So when I say that we were created in his image, of God's image, because the only other being that I can think of that has the ability to create beauty without there being an end goal, only for the sake of creating beauty, expressing ourselves, connecting to others, is God. Like, look at what we live on. Look at this beautiful planet, this Mother Earth. It's beauty for the sake of beauty, and also it all works together. It's symbiotic. It's everything. So this all leads into, I really will get there, Brenda. So this all leads into our responsibility and our importance to Mother Earth is that we co-create with her. And we, like I said, we've messed this up terribly, but we can also fix it. And we have the intelligence to look things up and make sure that we're not planting invasive species, that we're not putting harmful chemicals and plastics and all that stuff when we're working the earth. We are meant to be stewards of the earth. When you look at all these gifts that was given to us, we were meant to be stewards of the earth, because we have something above the animals that doesn't make us better. It just gives us that extra responsibility. We need to take care of the animals, we need to take care of the plants, we need to take care of Mother Earth. And I mean, she can take care of herself without us. She doesn't necessarily need us, but she wants to work with us. That's what I believe. You know, like, she wants to work with us. She wants to nurture us and have our talents and our creativity be expressed. So don't look at yourself as bad for the planet. I mean, take steps, obviously, but to lessen your impact on the planet, look at yourself as a co-creator with Mother Earth, with God, with whatever being you decide that inspires you to do that. So when Brenda said that she was afraid, or not afraid, but she, you know, the feeling I got was that she was leery about cutting down trees or removing saplings, and just worried about the flow of it. But we're part of that flow. We are part of that, and we can work with the natural flow. We can enhance the flow. We can grow that flow. And you have to be aware, obviously. You don't just go in, be an asshole, and like tear everything down in your woods, right? Like that's not what I'm saying. You have to go in with the mindset that you are valuable and that you have talents, you have gifts that were given to you, and you are a co-creator with Mother Earth. So that was that part.
Awesome.
Yeah. So do you have any?
Yeah, well, I mean,
I'm gonna have a piece of cake after
there's a book that I have. It's called Conversation with a Tree by Roshana, and she lived down the valley, and she came across this beautiful tree in the park in Wolfville, and began communicating with it. And I'll dig it out and try to find the passage to follow up. But basically the tree told her that when you cut down a tree, they're giving their life for you.
Yeah.
So they're not mournful, they're not sad, they see life differently than we do. It's, you know, it's a balance and a give and take. So if you need to build shelter, you need to build a home, you need to burn firewood, that again is part of living with and co-creating with. So we plant trees, we cut down trees. So as long as we don't clear cut like they do in the Amazon, then you know you have to give back. So Brenda, your way of giving back is by working with your land and creating a little space for you, and if you have to cut things down, it allows other things to grow, which I think she mentioned anyway, that she figured that it wouldn't survive being crowded out. So, you know, please, and I'm the same way, like if I have to pull a plant, I'm like, I'm sorry, sorry, right?
But you know, even that apologetic energy that you're putting into doing that, because I'm the same way. I can't, I don't like pulling plants. I don't, but okay, everybody don't freak out, but you know, sometimes I have to kill a bug because it's in the house and I can't deal with it, right? So but I feel terrible, and I'm too afraid of certain bugs to catch and release. So I'm just going to admit that right now. I can't do it. So I like,
what bug are you afraid of?
Like, I scream like a girl when it comes to spiders. I can't do spiders.
Really? I forgot to tell you about the bathroom spider then.
Oh, I didn't see it.
Whoops. She's not going to go in the bathroom now.
Well, it depends on the spider, but like in the valley, we have these like huge wood, the wolf spiders, those wood spiders.
They're scary.
Oh,
yeah.
God. No. I can't. I don't kill them. I try to get Katie to kill them. But she's afraid too. So we're like screaming in the house if there's like a big, huge spider. Anyway. So, yeah, sometimes, but I feel bad for that. I really do feel bad for it. But it's like, it's my sanity. And that's important too. So, yeah, so I kind of got off topic there. But yeah, it's the energy of putting, you know, that apologizing or replacing or making sure that whatever happens to whatever you take down doesn't go to waste. That's the biggest thing, you know, like, but I thought what I would do is create another video where I'll go into the woods again and I'll talk more about that, because I don't want this to be too long and drawn out, because I haven't even talked about the main subject here. So yeah, so I thought I'd just do a little separate video for that. Yeah, is there anything else?
No, that's good.
Okay. So the main subject is creating sacred space, which also came from Brenda's comment. So I just wanted to give some basic tips on sacred space. Like when I'm just sitting here looking around Susie's room here, like it feels very sacred to me. She's created a sacred space. It's inside her house, and she probably has something outside too, but we'll talk about that. But the first thing was the tip for creating sacred space on the land is actually finding the spot, like finding the spot that you feel speaks to you. And for me, I just felt called into a certain direction into our woods, and when I went in there, I saw that naturally occurring circle with the big old gnarly apple tree in the center. And then I discovered further the hawthorn grove. Like, I was drawn to that, but that doesn't always happen. It's not something that makes itself, like the sacred space chose me. I didn't choose it. It made itself known to me. And it's kind of like Harry Potter, where the wand chooses the wizard and not the other way around. So that's what happened to me. And but that doesn't always happen. So if you're looking for a spot to create a sacred space, you could use like a pendulum.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Dowsing rods.
Yeah, dowsing rods. You know, you can just ask the pendulum, you know, I'm looking for a place to set up a sacred space. Direct me, like forward, left, right. Do I go left? Yes or no? That kind of thing. Or the dowsing rods, they'll tell you. I don't really know how to use them, but I know you have.
I'll do a video.
There you go. You can use tools like that. And then if that doesn't work, when because you can do this, you don't have to own woods. You can do this on a small property. You can do this inside. You can do this in an apartment.
Mm-hmm.
But when I lived in the city, the previous house, it was a postage size, like it was a really tiny yard, and it was dead. Like, spiritually speaking, that piece of little land there was dead, and I felt nothing there. There was nothing. There was no spirit, there was no magic, nothing. So that was my end goal. I had to bring life to that property. I had to co-create with that property. And you know what? That little piece of land in that tiny yard was craving it. It was craving it so much, because as soon as I started planting, things were growing like crazy.
Oh my goodness, it was beautiful.
Yeah, I was like, man, I have a green thumb. But I don't really think it was me. It was like Mother Earth was desperate for life to be there. So when I planted things were growing like crazy, and I planted trees, I planted bushes, I planted flower gardens, I planted vegetable gardens, and I mean, it was crammed, right? And to me, I put a fence up and put outbuildings.
And then it was full of birds and bees, and just a cacophony of sounds would come from your place.
Yeah, the birds came, the bees came. Like when we moved in there was nothing. There was no birds, no bees, and then just that tiny little space, and it was just full of life. But in doing that, when I had my garden beds right up against the side of the house, I built an arbor. And I did that because I wanted to have like climbing flowers, clematis. And when it started covering the arbor, inside the arbor, I felt this intense energy. I was like, there's spirit here now. You know what I mean? There's magic here now. So I put a little tiny round table in there. I put a lantern in there, and I kind of made it like an altar. I put lights on the arbor, and I called in the spirit that was missing by doing all this work, by planting, by just creating a space that was safe for animals. And when you have a safe space for wildlife, you have safe space for magic and spirit. That's what I believe anyway. And I know there's spirits everywhere, but I just feel like they're I don't know, I just feel like there's a sense of gratitude on a spiritual realm.
Absolutely, I believe that.
Yeah. So when I did that, I was like, okay, this space now has a sacred space. I created it. It wasn't there before. It wasn't like ancient burial ground or anything like, or maybe it was, I don't know. But I didn't feel that. I created a space. So you can create your own space even if your land feels dead, if you're not inspired. Just start somewhere. Just
even if you're in an apartment. Plants. Plants are such a beautiful way to connect with Mother Nature inside. They give you oxygen. They're beautiful, and you can put your crystals in the ground to charge them. They're in the sunlight. They're in the moonlight. It's a beautiful way to create space just within your own little space.
Exactly. And I find Another thing, I find that corners and nooks are just, they're just naturally occurring. I don't know if they sort of, not trap the energy, but they it kind of hugs energy in corners and nooks. That. You know what I mean? So if you have a little corner somewhere, or you can create a corner. I'm just looking here in Susie's space. Like there's a corner here, but it was created with an armoire and a stand. So there's, you can make a little sacred space there, add your plants, add your things from nature, and just work with that. You don't have to have land. I know that's hard when you don't have land. It's really hard. I've been through that. You know, I've only gotten my land in this last house a year ago, and I'm 58. So it took a long time, because I've always lived in houses that it was townhouse owned, or, you know, trailer park owned land. So, you know, I never had my land that I could do whatever I wanted with. So I know how hard that can be, but it doesn't have to be that hard. Just work with what you have. And that's kind of what our theme is. Work with what you have, right? Yeah. So I think that's it. Just let me double check.
She got a lot of notes there.
Oh, I wanted to also tie this in with mental health, because I sort of touched a little bit on that, and I know Susie's going to touch on it too for her. But sacred space is not only beneficial to nature, but it's beneficial to you. It's not just beneficial to deity and spirits, it's beneficial to you. Like, to have your sacred space just helps break down the barriers of stress. It helps break down doubts in your mind. And I remember in one house that I lived in with my ex-husband, there was a hallway, a really short, narrow, short hallway, but it had corner windows. I love corner windows at the end of it. And so I put like an antique sideboard in the hallway, and I put a little light on there and decorated it, and I would just love that hallway. It just had an energy about it. And one time I was just standing in the hallway. It was a weird thing I did, but I just stood in the hallway and just allowed the space to calm me. And one time I was standing in there, and I was looking out those corner windows into our backyard. This house was in the city, and I was just not looking at anything, just sort of gazing, you know, just having no focus, just relaxing. And then suddenly I just saw these little lights dancing. They were dancing outside in the air, kind of at my eye level in the yard. And I was like, we don't have fireflies in the city, right? They weren't fireflies, it was a different colored light. And I tell you this story because when you find a sacred space that allows you to decompress, to de-stress, things like that will happen. It doesn't always happen outwardly like it did that time for me. It's never happened again like that for me, but it will happen inwardly. You will start being able to commune with spirit, to open your third eye. You'll be able to work your magic and build on your magic. So it's so beneficial to your mental health and your spiritual health and your physical health, because all those are tied into your physical health.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That was my 30-minute rant. It wasn't, well, part of it was a rant, but anyway, thank you so much, Brenda, because that really, really helped me with my my subject for this podcast. I had something else I was going to talk about. I just wasn't feeling it, and then when I started thinking about your comment, I was like, that's it. That's what I'm doing. So there you go. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's great to get comments too, or questions. Like, please feel free to ask, or, you know, add your own little tip or trick or whatever, we love that. We really appreciate it. So yeah, so for my what makes my cauldron bubble, makes me tingly, is of course spirituality and just how much it's helped me with my mental health. And let's face it, it's a tough world and it's getting tougher all the time. And without that connection that I fostered and developed and grew, I really honestly don't know where I would be. So fostering that connection and just finding what gives me joy was difficult to do when I was in a depressive state. So it's that vicious cycle, right? Like the crappier you feel, the less you want to do. So I had been in the spiritual community and I had my own little practice and a drum circle and all of that, but I was really super struggling with how I felt about my job and my life and stuff like that. So one day I just decided to do a meditation, and it was around Samhain, which I always feel like really deeply connected with. And I did a meditation, and it was through that meditation that, I don't want to say a voice spoke to me, but something took over me and guided me, and I felt the strength welling up inside of me. And I realized, yeah, I am strong and I can overcome and I can deal. So it really gave me more of a push forward. And I think that, meditation is so important. I'm not one of these people that can go deep into meditation, right? So I like guided meditations because it's easy for me to listen to somebody. Yeah. But this one I did totally on my own, and I think, I was able to connect with a certain spirit. I don't talk much about my personal journeys or I was mentioning, I don't show my personal altar and things like that, just because it's so specific to me. And I like to share things, but there's some things that are I just keep to myself. That's just my personality.
Yeah.
So I won't talk too much about it. But then after that, I thought, if I can help myself, I can help other people too. And the best way I found to do that was through tarot. And I also do tea leaf readings too. But for me, it's about creating a connection. So, you come over and we do a tarot and tea leaf, and it just creates, again, a sacred space. Yeah. It creates a place where you can feel comfortable to talk to me, right? I always remember when we were little, and, it would be nighttime and we'd be in bed, and, in the dark, when there's nobody watching or nobody listening, that's when you can tell your secrets. Yeah. Right? Like we used to share so much, like just talking at night. And that meant so much to me because I'm a really reserved person. I don't tend to share.
I overshare. I know that about me.
This is why we make a good team, because we're different.
I'll tell you anything. It doesn't matter.
Well, maybe some of that will rub off. So, it's a way for, especially women to be able to talk and to share and, just to reveal those feelings, just saying them out loud. And then they don't seem so terrifying or ridiculous or embarrassing or, whatever it is that you've been running around in your head. So, for me, tarot is not as much about psychic reading as it is just a life reading, just coping skills, just basic things like, recognizing a pattern of behavior that holds you back. For me, it's always about forward momentum, overcoming obstacles, and, just raising your vibration. And I believe that there's low vibrations and there's high vibrations in this world. I don't discuss it as good and evil. I discuss it as high vibration, low vibration. So low vibration activities, gossiping, being a false person, telling lies, things like that, things that, you don't feel good about it.
Yeah.
But sometimes, you know, we go through stuff in life. Like we've been through stuff, right? So, and then, you know, just raising your vibration, you just suddenly start to feel better. So the more I got into my spiritual practice and doing tarot readings and finding connections and finding all these wonderful women that I work with in the spiritual community, really raised my vibration, and I started to feel better about myself. So then the other thing that happened was, of course, COVID. And, you know, when COVID first happened, like, what is going on?
Yeah.
Like, is the world ending? Is this, you know, is this the apocalypse? What? So I thought, okay, Susie, get a grip. And I thought about, you know, what our grandmothers did before us. And, you know, I created a meditation to talk to a grandmother spirit. And in my meditation, it was just a hand. And I'll get emotional just thinking about it. It was a hand just touching my hand.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's so important that, you know, we support one another, right? Like what we're doing and, you know, the people who are watching us. It's sometimes not even words. It's just holding space and being with somebody, right? So
the hand, was it somebody you knew?
Well, I felt like it was my great grandmother who I didn't meet because she died very young after she had my grandmother. And I think about her a lot. And it was just this, yeah, I know, right? It's hard to talk about.
Yeah.
But we have to realize that we are strong. We can overcome. We can get through things. It's ugly. It's messy. I cry. You know, I rant and rave. I get angry, right? Like, I get frustrated. But then I remind myself that, you know, corny, but this too shall pass.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And
yep.
So for me, as you said, like mental health, spiritual health, physical health, it's all related and connected.
Yeah.
And, you know, I still struggle. I still have moments where I go, jeepers, this world. You know, I'm not
lately.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to be sorry to leave it, you know, at some point when I'm ready. But
yeah,
it's just, I feel for all of the people who are struggling with mental health.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's a commercial on TV right now where the person's like, it's okay, I'm okay. But inside they're struggling because we don't know how to tell people we're not okay.
Yeah.
It's not okay to say I'm not okay. Right? Like in my mother's day, you just didn't.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You just, like my mom, she soldiered on, as did her mother and my great grandmother. But it's not about being whiny. It's not about being a victim. It's about being real.
Absolutely. Whatever emotion that you are feeling at that moment, like the emotion that you just had, there's no benefit to not express it, but there is power in expressing it, and there's healing in expressing it.
Absolutely.
There's healing of self, but you know, somebody else watching this will totally relate to that emotion, and that it spreads. You know, that's why we're going to get off on a tangent, but that's okay, right? That's what these podcasts are about. But I was talking to a coworker, and she's a bit older than me, and we were talking about how everybody is so afraid to share things, you know, like to share, because her and I will tell each other everything, and we're just co-workers, right? But she'll talk about her illnesses and her struggles and all those things, and I share the same thing. But how are people supposed to grow if they think everything is all right with you, right? How are people supposed to see that their struggles are your struggles too? They may be different, but the basic emotion that comes from these struggles are the same. So how are people supposed to find connection and comfort and healing if we're all just holding on to everything? are especially the bad things, the sad things. You know, it does no good to anybody. So share away. That's what I say. Don't make that your identity. Make that the emotion that propels you forward. You know, sometimes it's sadness, sometimes it's despair, sometimes it's anger. I feel a lot of anger, a lot. And that, I don't get depressed when I'm angry. I get motivated. You know what I mean?
Aries.
Yeah. Yeah. And so be real, you know, be real with yourself. And yeah, the tangent, I guess, is tying in your spiritual path. And for me, I tried a bunch of spiritual paths, like I mentioned in the first podcast, and I found myself getting depressed because I was made to feel like a sinner, or I was made to feel ashamed of my relationship. I was made to feel, you know, I was blamed for certain things that happened in my life, but they weren't my fault. But that's what certain religions and spiritual paths did to me, and it was harmful to me. And so I had to like push all that aside and find my path, and I feel like I found it. You know, I've dug my way out of the darkness. I'm not saying I don't fall back into it, but I use my spirituality to help me out of it. So
yeah, that's wonderful.
So when you talk about tarot and you say it's not so much a psychic thing, can you explain that a little bit to me? What you mean by that?
Yeah, so I work with a group of women, and we do readings as a group. So you come to us as the seeker, and you know, we sit in a circle, and there's, you know, 3, 4, 5 of us, and we each have our own way of reading. So, you know, some do runes, some do tarot, some do just feeling your emotion and showing that back to you. So every once in a while, someone will have like a psychic moment where they get like a really deep intuition, and we give that to the reader, and you know, either they have an aha moment right there, or it comes to them later where they realize what you've said. So those are wonderful moments, and I just cherish those, whether it comes from me or from one of the other girls. But for me, the most important thing is creating a safe space for that person to have a conversation, to have a realization, and to look at things through a different lens, because we get caught up in our own thinking and influences from family members and co-workers and you know, media, and it's too much. So take a step back and look at what the cards reveal and go, wow, yeah, I see what you're saying. I do that, or you know, or I can overcome. I can do that. So yeah, right now I'm reading Matt Aron's Psychic Tarot book. I love Matt Aron, Auryn.
Okay.
The book's not right in front of me. Anyway, so he wants you to, you know, to develop your psychic abilities when doing tarot reading. So I'm reading that book to help me.
Right.
But it's really just about those conversations. It's about all your grandmothers sitting around a table, right? The men folk are out doing what they're doing, and you're sharing tips and tricks on how you got through things, whether it's childbirth or, you know, a husband who drinks too much, or, you know, just life, right? It's about life and overcoming obstacles, and just knowing that you're not alone.
Yes.
Right? Like, I think, oh God, you know, nobody feels like I do. Like, nobody has these problems.
Yeah.
But, you know, then I read all the memes on Facebook, and it's like, oh yeah, people do, you know. It's funny. But, yeah, so that's what I mean. But does that make sense?
Yeah, because years ago, I used to do tarot readings, and And yeah, there was that sort of psychic element to it. But there was something about tarot cards that I could never really truly connect to. But I would have decks. And what I found myself doing was, instead of shuffling and doing a spread, I found myself flipping through. And it was like, this card speaks to me.
Mm.
And then putting it on the table, and was like, why does this card speak to me? And I found myself doing more of a psychological analysis of myself using tarot cards, not random tarot cards, but a card that, you know, image wise, it was like, this is the one that I need to look at. And so I have that kind of different relationship with tarot. I like working with oracle decks, I think, more than tarot cards for some reason. I don't know why. But anyway, yeah. So it's cool that you know, just to find something to work with for your own personal growth, your own mental health, and whatever that may be. It might be tarot, it might not be, it might be tea leaves, it might.
Yeah, I mean, don't feel that you have to do what everybody else is doing.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's cool or it's popular or whatever. You know, maybe dowsing rods are your jam, or a pendulum, or, you know, like one of the ladies that I practice with, you know, she just feels your feelings. She's an empath.
Right.
So she feels it and then she talks to you about it. So, you know, what works for you? What do you connect with? What do you feel like you feel is right? Not what you think or what somebody told you. You know how many people say to me, oh, I'm waiting for my tarot deck. I'm like, what? Yeah, I was told that someone has to gift you a tarot deck before you have. I'm like, what? I don't understand that.
Geez, I'd be waiting forever. You know, like nobody's going to give me a deck of cards. Well, now that I say that, you might, but
yeah, I've given people decks, and I've
but
given people drums and things like that, because that's what people say. Oh, you know, you have to be gifted. I don't believe in have to or shoulds, or I don't believe in any of that. I just think that whatever organically you jibe with and speaks to you, then that's what you should go with, and not worry about, oh my gosh, fears and superstitions. No.
Yeah.
I can't stand that.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah. There's been a point in my life where I was at an extremely vulnerable point in my life where I had a pastor see the books in my house on witchcraft. I had books on Christianity, I had books on witchcraft, and he basically said that the reason that this tragedy happened was because of my dabbling in the occult.
Wow.
And I gotta be honest, that scared the shit out of me. It really did. I was so fucked up in the head for so long because of that. And it took me forever to dig myself out of that. So, and admittedly, I had to get rid of some of the beliefs that I had in all directions to find my particular path. So, I don't know, that fear, don't be afraid. Don't let the fear ruin your mental health, because, man, it's not worth it. It's not worth it. Like, you just... Nobody's opinion is worth you going down into the deep darkness of hell, basically. So I don't know. But that's why we're here. We want to talk more about that. We want to empower you. We want to empower each other. And let's have fun doing it.
Yeah. That was awesome.
Yeah.
Good job.
Okay. Whew. I know, that was a lot, wasn't it?
I know, but the more we talk, then the more things I want to talk about, right? And I think, oh, I want to do a video on that.
Yeah.
Oh, I
Yeah.
rant about that.
Yes.
Yeah, there's so much.
So much.
And again, like, please share with us, you know, comment, ask questions, suggest topics, you know, how do you feel about this? How do you feel about that? We don't know everything, but we both love to research, right? Like,
yeah. Huge research. Yeah.
Like the books,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just all the experience that we've had over the decades. So, yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you for listening to us, and really hope to read some comments. And yeah.
Put the cover back on the pot.
Oh, right. I forgot. So with that, I'm putting the lid
on the fly that is buzzing around here.
Yeah. So I'm putting the lid on the cauldron, and have a good night.
Thanks, Mom.